Okay, so imagine you're standing in your living room. You feel pretty comfortable, right? The heat's on, everything seems fine.
Seems solid.
Exactly. But what if you could put on a special pair of glasses? Suddenly, you wouldn't just see walls, you'd see money, actual dollar bills, just flying out through the drywall, slipping under the floorboards.
Vanishing through the roof. It's a painful thought, but yeah, financially, that's exactly what's happening. Invisible cash burn.
It really is. And today, we're not just talking about a drafty window. We are doing a deep dive into the business of seeing that lost money, heat loss detection.
Or thermal imaging, energy auditing. It goes by a few names.
Right. It's the whole industry built around finding that lost value. And from all the research we've been digging into, it seems like it's absolutely booming.
It is. It's right at that perfect intersection of, building science, cool high-tech gear, and this huge global push for sustainability.
So here's the mission for this deep dive. We're going to strip this whole thing down. Is this a real business model? We know the demand is there, energy costs are through the roof, but is walking around with a camera actually a scalable business?
Or is it just a high-tech side
Oh,
hustle?
yeah, exactly. So we're going to look at the real margins, the equipment you actually need, not the cheap toys, and how you scale it.
And we have to talk about the why now, because the timing on this is, it's very specific.
Good point. Because this tech, thermal cameras and all that, it's been around for a while.
Oh.
FLIR isn't new. So why the explosion now?
I'd say three big things are all hitting at once. First, the obvious one, energy costs.
Of course.
When your heating bill doubles, that little draft in the hallway suddenly goes from a minor annoyance to a major budget problem.
It becomes an emergency you have to fix.
Right. Second is the regulatory environment. So in the US, you have the Inflation Reduction Act. It's pumping billions into home efficiency tax credits. And then over in the UK and the EU, you've got things like the Green Deal, strict energy performance certificates, the EPCs.
So governments are basically paying people to find these problems.
They're literally subsidizing the audit. It completely changes the sales pitch. You're not just selling a service, you're selling the key to unlocking government money.
That's a huge shift in the conversation with a customer.
It removes all the friction. And the third thing is corporate ESG goals. Commercial buildings are under huge pressure to cut their carbon footprint. Mandatory energy audits are becoming the norm.
Okay, so the wind is definitely at your back. Demand is there. The government's helping out. But let's get into the unit economics. I was reading the financial breakdowns, and, well, some of the numbers seemed a little optimistic.
You're talking about the gross margins?
Yeah. I mean, some sources were claiming 80 to 90% gross margin. That sounds like a software company, not a service business where you have to physically drive to a job site.
It sounds high, but it's realistic. You just have to be really clear on what gross margin means here. It's just your revenue minus your direct cost of goods sold.
Your Kojis.
Right. And in this business, your COGS are almost zero. You're not leaving parts behind. You're not pouring concrete.
It's just your gas money and maybe a tiny bit of wear and tear on the camera.
Exactly. So on a per job basis, yeah, you keep almost all of it. The real cost is your time. You can't automate the inspection itself.
Not yet, anyway.
So while the gross margin is sky high, the set margin after insurance, marketing, software, all that, it settles somewhere more in the 30 to 50% range.
Which, for a service business, is still fantastic. I mean, construction is, what, 10% net if you're lucky?
If you're very lucky. So yeah, 30 to 50% is excellent.
So let's talk pricing, because this feels like where you separate the side hustle from the actual business. What can you charge?
Well, if you're doing residential, single-family homes, apartments, it's a volume game. A typical audit run, say, $200 to $400.
And maybe 600 for a really big, complicated house.
Yeah. Something like that.
Okay, so if you do the math, an audit takes, what, 3 hours, plus travel, plus writing the report. You're making a decent hourly wage, but you're not getting rich.
Not on single-family homes, no. You'd have to do 2 a day, every single day, just to break 6 figures. The game totally changes when you move to commercial.
Ah, this is where we see those $10,000 invoices.
Exactly. A commercial audit for a warehouse or an office building that can start at $1,000 and go way, way up from there. 10 grand isn't uncommon.
Why such a massive jump? Is it just the size of the building?
That's part of it, but it's mostly about liability and complexity. Checking a 50,000 square foot roof for water damage is a whole different world than checking a living room window.
You're dealing with safety officers, project managers.
And the report you write isn't for a homeowner. It's for a CFO who needs to justify a $1 million repair. The stakes are just so much higher.
So you're not just selling photos, you're selling risk mitigation.
That's it exactly. And the operators who mix commercial in with their residential work, they're the ones hitting that 100K to 500K revenue number pretty consistently.
Okay, so let's talk about getting started. The barrier to entry. Because I know someone listening is thinking, I've got an iPhone, I can buy one of those $200 thermal camera attachments.
Oh, please do not do that.
Walk me through it. Why is that a terrible idea?
It's all about two things: resolution and thermal sensitivity. That little phone attachment might have a resolution of like 80 by 60 pixels. It's just a blurry blob.
So you can see that something is hot over there.
But you can't tell if it's a gap in the insulation or just a hot water pipe in the wall. And, more importantly, you can't use those images in an official report.
Ah, so if the client wants their tax credit.
The auditing body, whether it's the IRS or a local utility, they need clear evidence. They need a high-resolution image. You can't just hand them a blurry watercolor painting.
So what's the real price of admission? To do this for real?
I'd break it down into tiers. For, let's call it entry-level pro, you're looking at about $2,000 to $8,000.
Okay, and what does that get you?
That gets you a real standalone handheld camera, something like a FLIR E8. It's got decent resolution, it's rugged, it's what professionals use to start.
And training. We
Right.
have to talk about training.
Oh, that's crucial. You absolutely need, at a minimum, a level 1 thermography certification. That's probably going to cost you another $1,500 to $2,000.
And you need to understand the science, right? Like
Yeah.
emissivity.
Yes. You have to know that if you point your camera at a shiny metal vent, it looks cold. Not because it is cold, but because it's reflecting the temperature of everything around it.
And if you don't know that, you tell the client to tear out their vent.
And they find nothing, and then they sue you. Which brings us to insurance.
Professional liability.
Errors and omissions. Do not skip this. It's probably $1,000 to $5,000 a year. You are giving advice on people's single biggest asset. You have to be covered.
So all in. To start right, you're at what, 10, maybe 15 grand? For the gear, the training, the insurance.
That's a safe bet for a solo operation. If you want to go big drones, blower doors, the work in it, you're looking at 50 to 100,000.
Okay, let's talk about that. The gold standard. You mentioned a blower door. I feel like that's a term people hear but don't really get.
It sounds kind of aggressive, doesn't it?
It sounds like a weapon, but it's really just a big fan.
It's a calibrated fan that you seal into an exterior door frame, and you turn it on, and it starts pulling air out of the house. It depressurizes the building.
So you're basically creating a slight vacuum.
A very mild one, yeah. But what that does is it forces outside air to scream in through every single tiny crack and gap in the building's shell.
So without the fan, you're passive. You're just waiting to see a temperature difference. With the fan, you're actively stressing the building.
You're forcing the leak to show itself. When that fan is running and you scan with the thermal camera, the leaks look like little comets streaking in. It's undeniable proof.
And that's a serious upsell.
It's the difference between a basic inspection and a full-on building envelope audit. It's why you can charge the premium rates.
Okay, so we've got the gear, we've got the method. How do we scale this thing? Because just trading hours for dollars has a ceiling. The outline mentions a referral model.
Yeah, that's the most common route. You basically integrate vertically, you find the leak, and the homeowner asks, so, who can fix this?
And you have an answer.
You have a trusted network, an insulation company, a window guy, an HVAC tech. And you get a commission for the referral.
What's typical for that?
About 10 to 15% of the value of the repair job.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. Isn't that a huge conflict of interest? If I tell you that you need $5 grand in new insulation and I'm getting a $500 kickback.
It can be for sure if you're not transparent. The ethical way to do it, the way that builds a real brand, is to disclose it.
So you just tell them up front.
You say, look, I have vetted partners I trust. If you use them, I'll oversee the project and verify the repair with a follow-up scan. You're not just selling a lead, you're selling a guaranteed result.
Ah, so you become the project manager. That makes a lot more sense. What about strategy number 2, getting out of the residential game?
B2B and industrial. This is where you find recurring revenue. Think about a factory. They have hundreds of motors, electrical panels.
Predictive maintenance.
Yes. Friction creates heat long before a part fails. A bearing gets hot for weeks before it seizes. If you have a monthly contract to scan that factory, you can tell them, hey, motor 4B is running hot. Swap it out.
And you just save them a $50,000 production shutdown.
And they are more than happy to pay you $2,000 for a few hours of your time every single month.
And then there are drones. Is that just for show or is it a real tool?
Oh, it's essential for scale. Trying to inspect a massive commercial roof on foot is slow and dangerous. A thermal drone can map a 100,000 square foot roof in like 30 minutes.
And it's looking for trapped water, right?
Right. Water holds heat longer than the dry parts of the roof. So after the sun goes down, the roof cools, but the wet spots just glow on the camera. The software creates a map showing exactly where to patch.
But again, that's another barrier to entry. You can't just fly a drone over a warehouse.
No, you need your FAA Part 107 license in the US or the equivalent overseas. You need special insurance. And the drones themselves, a good thermal drone is $5,000 to $15,000. It's a serious investment.
So you've built this business. You've got the contracts, the drones, the referral network. Everything's great. And then July hits.
Ah, yes, the seasonality trap, the business kill switch.
Explain this. Because heat is still heat, right?
It is, but the whole process relies on something called delta T. That's the difference in temperature between the inside and the outside.
Okay.
You need at least a 10 or 15 degrees Celsius difference, that's about 20, 30 degrees Fahrenheit, to get a clear image.
So if it's 72 degrees inside your house and 72 degrees outside,
Your camera sees nothing. A gray wall. There's no heat moving, so there's no flow to see.
so for much of the spring, fall, and basically all of summer, your heat loss business is dead in the water. That's a huge risk.
It is the #1 reason these businesses fail. They plan for 12 months of revenue, but only have a 6-month window to earn it.
So how do you survive this summer?
You pivot. You have to find problems that aren't weather dependent. We mentioned industrial scans, motors are always hot, electrical panels are always hot. That's your summer work.
And moisture, right?
Moisture is huge. A water leak behind a wall creates evaporative cooling. You can see that even in the summer. Solar panel inspections are another big one.
And I saw this term coolth loss.
Coolth is just the opposite of heat. If you're in, say, Phoenix, you're not looking for heat leaking out in the winter. You're looking for your expensive air conditioning leaking out in the summer. The physics is identical.
So in the Sun Belt, summer is actually your busy season.
It can be, yeah. It brings up those regional differences.
Let's touch on that. How different is this business in London versus Los Angeles?
In the US, it's a bit more of a Wild West situation. The barriers to entry are lower. The market is really driven by those tax credits and just the sheer size of the houses.
Big houses, big heating bills.
Exactly. In the UK and Europe, it's more of a regulatory game. The housing stock is much older, so it's incredibly inefficient. But the rules are stricter. You often need to be an accredited assessor to issue the official energy certificates.
So a higher bar to get in,
Yeah.
but maybe more stable government-mandated work once you're there.
I think that's right. A lot of EU companies are retrofit coordinators. They don't just find the leak. They manage the entire government-funded renovation that follows.
It keeps coming back to that, doesn't it? The camera is just a beginning. The real business is the solution.
The camera just gives you data. The business is selling answers.
One last risk before we wrap. That skill gap. How easy is it to really mess this up?
Oh, incredibly easy. A classic rookie mistake is reflection. You point your camera at a window, you see a big hot spot, you tell the client something's wrong.
But it's just your own body heat reflecting back at you.
Or the sun.
Yeah.
Or a lamp. If you tell a commercial client to rip open a wall because you saw a reflection, your business is done. Your reputation is torched.
The lesson is, get the training. Don't be a cowboy.
Building science is a real thing. You have to respect it.
Okay, let's pull it all together. It's a high-margin business, needs maybe 10 to 15 grand to start right. It's riding this huge global wave of energy policy, but it has a massive seasonality trap, and you absolutely need to be an expert, not just a gadget owner.
And the scaling happens when you move beyond just house calls and into B2B, recurring contracts, and managing the repairs.
So where does this go in the future? 10 years from now, are we still going to have people in vans with handheld cameras?
I think the shift is from being reactive to being predictive. Right now, you call an auditor because your bill is too high or you feel a draft.
You wait for the pain?
You wait for the pain. But imagine a future where tiny thermal sensors are just embedded in the walls when a house is built, or a drone on the roof of a warehouse automatically flies a scan every single night.
The building diagnoses itself.
Continuous monitoring. Your car tells you when your tire pressure is low, right? Your house will tell you, hey, the seal on the upstairs window is failing, and it's costing you $4 a day.
The subscription model for your house's health.
Exactly. The big leap is from fixing leaks to optimizing environments. That's the next massive opportunity.